Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Our team and coaches certainly excited about playing, I think, a much improved University of South Dakota football team. Got a big, tall quarterback, stands about 6'6", operating behind a strong physical offensive line. Most guys are over 300 pounds, and they're playing a stingy 3-4 defense. So another challenge for us. We're certainly excited about playing at home. It's an opportunity for us to do something special with 1 week left in our regular season. And so I know our players are excited and our coaches are excited, and I'm personally excited as well. So at this time, I'll open up any questions anybody might have.
Coach, do you have any plans? I know you want to do something special to get this big win. Do you have any plans to hopefully rest some players going into it?
No, this is a big ball game. I'm real clear about my assessment of South Dakota. They're an improved football team. All their games have been competitive. They've either won their games by a pretty close margin or they've lost by a pretty close margin. So we need to be ready to go and play and win the football game.
Do you anticipate Marcus Williams playing at all in this game?
We're hopeful. It's touch and go, as I mentioned last week. He was able to run, but wasn't able to run well enough to play. How he responds this week, we'll see. He felt like he could play, but this coming game, but we'll see.
Coach, I know some people would want you to take the foot off the throttle right now, but that can come back to haunt you, can it, if you would do that?
Well, as I was saying, our number one goal is we won the conference, but to finish the conference undefeated, and it's a tall order. Our football team is very focused, and our players and coaches are very focused. This is a big ball game for us. It's our last home game, and we want to make sure we play well.
Specifically, where South Dakota improved from last year?
Well, I think defensively, they're a big, strong 3-4 team, Jeff. And statistically, they're one of the better teams in our league. I think so they've improved significantly defensively. Quarterback play, he's a tall guy that can throw the ball well. I know his completion percentage probably is not where Joe wants it to be, but he's a dangerous passer. He's got a strong arm, and so we'll have our hands full there.
Youngstown coach accused some of your players of some cheap shots on Saturday. Did you get a chance to hear?
No, I didn't. Eric and I are friends, and so his comments, I was on the bus going home. So I know it was a physical game. It was a very competitive game. So I'm not going to make any comments about anything that Eric said that I'm not aware of.
Ryan healthy enough to start returning kicks again? Punts, kicks?
Yes. Ryan Smith will be returning punts this week.
Coach, was undefeated talked about as a goal beyond winning the conference as a goal? Where was undefeated on the list of that?
Yeah, that's in there. That's in there. I can tell you these seniors don't want to lose. And they talked about that going through conference play. They don't want to lose. They do not want to lose. They are unbelievably focused and galvanized, and they just don't want to lose. That's their attitude.
Is this a week where you might take a step back and reflect on your senior class and the things they've been doing?
Well, I've done a little bit of that, Jamal. Coming into work early this morning, thought about typically we allow the seniors to address football team during our last week of regular season, and most of the time it's just a guy here or there after practice. This is going to be quite an entourage. I'm going to have to schedule this out. But you start to think about the contribution of these players that are going to be playing their last year here, and really a special, unique group of men. And so it's always hard for me, when they come running out the last time. Hopefully we'll have a home playoff game, but it's always kind of an emotional time for me, and I talk to them about making sure they keep their emotions in check, and heck, I'm the one that's struggling. So,
Coach, what was Grant? I know Grant was on the sidelines and doing some things. Kind of what was
he's doing a lot of stuff.
What was
he
kind
was
of his
coaching
role?
He's coaching me up. I'll tell you that. Yeah, one time he came up to me, Brian, he said, "Coach, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but," and I said, "Well, Grant, it sounds to me like you're trying to tell me how to do my job." So, yeah, he had a coaching visor on. He had the Steve Spurrier visor on, pacing up and down the sidelines, and he was into it. It was great to see him around.
What can you say about your tight ends and fullbacks? It seems like every year, this time of year especially, they become a huge part of the offense, maybe because other aspects are getting taken out and that's what's there.
Well, I have not noticed that. I think Brent Vegan and our offensive staff do a great job of utilizing our personnel. And many times those guys are maybe probably not recognized enough. But, last Saturday when you saw Andrew Bonnet catch the ball in the flat, I was like, I wouldn't want to tackle him. And I know one time he was looking ready. He was going to hurdle somebody. No one would allow him to hurdle anybody. But Kevin Bodlin caught some touchdown passes, and it was great to see. Although Andrew Grothman had suffered a hip pointer, he played well. So we've got a lot of good players there in our offense. We're able to utilize those guys in the run and the pass game. That really makes it much more difficult to defend.
Is everybody pretty healthy for them? I mean, for this time of the year, as healthy as you can be?
Yeah, Brian, I think we are. There were some guys, when I was talking with our captains, they're beat up, they're sore. It was a hard physical game, but that's to be expected this late in the year. I don't think there'll be anybody that will not go into this next week not being able to play. We'll find out that the big question mark is going to be Marcus.
Was it nice to see that kind of game out of Kevin Bodlin, considering he's had some rough moments this season?
It was. I thought he really responded well and bounced back well. Achieving high is really important to him, and when he doesn't make his own grade, sometimes I think he gets a little disappointed, but he stayed in the fight and didn't get down on himself and come back and made some big plays.
Coach, is it as simple as two guys getting consistent quarterback play, and they've had better defense for USD to see an improvement to go from 2 wins to now being up high in the conference?
Well, I think anytime you play well at quarterback, I know as an old defensive coordinator, it makes it a lot harder. So if you got better quarterback play, that's going to help you. Two things, you're going to play better at quarterback and play better on defense, and that usually starts with guys up front. I think that, like I said, I think they got 3 big, strong guys inside, and then they have, an All-American candidate's an outside linebacker that I think is a heck of a player.
Talk about what you've seen out of C.J. Smith this year, how he's progressed throughout the year.
Well, he certainly was playing with a great deal of fire and energy Saturday. I know he was challenged, and for the most part, I thought he really delivered well. He's a really athletic guy, but sometimes when you say athletic, that just means a guy can run around, jump, and doesn't really execute. I think he's become a real craftsman. John Richardson had played corner here, has been coaching him and has helped mentor him along, and certainly instilled confidence. And he's beginning to understand more than just running and jumping, how to play corner. And so they went after him sometime Saturday, and he delivered. And it was fun to see him out there competing. He's a quiet, unassuming guy, and when he was out there on that field, I know he was pretty fired up.
It seems like he's more of a physical type of cornerback. Would you agree with that?
More so than what I would have thought. So when you say more physical, yeah, I just looked at him. He was an athletic basketball player that came in that could run and jump, and we recruited him, had good character and good athleticism. But he's certainly from the Kansas State game. I think he made his presence known. He wasn't backing down from those guys at all, and they were the defending Big 12 champions, and he mixed it up right away. He's been a pleasant surprise for us.
You talked about this some after the game, Craig, but Saturday's win showed some depth, especially in defense. When you lose Grant, you lose Marcus, you can step up and still play pretty well defensively. Is that something that you knew was there as the coach, and that maybe others like we didn't know was there?
Yeah. During the course of probably been the biggest transition that we've made through the last several years, Mike, is developing depth. And we got a rude awakening when we got in the Valley. I remember that first year we were over there playing Youngstown, and I think you were covering us at that time, and remember some of the names that were out there, and you go, who's this guy? Who's that guy? And at that time, I did not realize the rigors and the physical toll going through conference play would take. And so we rearranged how we practiced and what we did. And so we worked really hard during the spring and fall at developing depth. It taxed our coaches, it taxed our players. But Saturday's game is an indication. Now, we certainly would have loved to have Grant out there and Marcus out there, but we thought we executed pretty well without those guys, and I think it's an indication. Now, we can't sustain too many more injuries, but we're certainly further along than we were a couple of years ago. Are we further along than what I thought? No, I thought we were a deep football team coming into this year.
Coach, does that make you try to get kids more game reps in certain situations that you might need later, your 2s and 3s in certain games earlier in the season, even in the Valley?
We always try to get as many players as we can. If you notice at certain positions, we roll a lot of guys, particularly the defensive line, and that's a position where a lot of times you do sustain injuries. So you'll see us play a lot of guys, and then there's other times when the game we feel like early in the year is in hand, we try to get other guys. There's nothing that can replicate game experience, and so that certainly helped.
What about some of these guys that don't play a lot, these seniors, I don't know, like Knack or something like that? I mean, not everybody's a star in the senior class.
No, and that's what's really been great, Jeff. You know, when you walk in the locker room, there's really no distinction between a notable player, say like Marcus or Billy Turner and Andrew Knack. You know, there's a real camaraderie within the locker room and a togetherness. And that senior class has gone through a lot. Many of those guys were here when we were 3 and 8, and they remember all the downs that we had. And they came here, you know, off of some pretty impressive years before. And so really appreciate their stance. So the combination, Jeff, of those guys that were here that are fifth-year guys and the fourth-year guys, that's a pretty special group of seniors.
Coach, the win on Saturday and clinching the Valley Championship, you had a chance, I guess, to see the national landscape and where a win Saturday would sit you for the postseason?
Well, I looked at it a little bit. I mean, we live in the present so much. You know, we're looking at South Dakota tape, and but you know, I glanced across the country. I saw where Fordham did lose, and I think they were the only other unbeaten team. You know, you start to look at how a committee might look and say, okay, how the bracket's going to fall. The one thing that I found through the years is when you think you kind of figure them out, you come in here that next day and I'm going, wow, I didn't think they'd do that. But the only way we can control, Dom, is I know this is right now we're number 1. If we continue to win, we'll go in number 1, and that's a good place to be.
Coach, do you believe that if you win Saturday, it'll be your 100th win here?
Nope. No.
It is.
Let's talk about that after the game, Ryan.
It looks like the Valley might only get two teams in the playoffs, and it all depends on what the committee does and everything else. But
Yeah.
would that surprise you if it's you guys and only one other team from what's? I think we all think it's the best conference.
No, it'd be I would say beyond a surprise, it would be a disappointment. You know, as I've watched crossover tape, and you look at the quality of play, and you look at the I don't know, it's just GPI or whatever. We got the toughest conference week in and week out. Everybody beats each other up. They're competitive games, and it'd be really disappointing if we didn't get more than 2 teams in. And I don't know how the committee would look at the resume of a lot of teams and not say, hey, I don't care what the record is. That's the toughest league, and we need to give some consideration. So I'm a big supporter of at least 3 teams. My vote doesn't count very much.
Coach, how has Carlton Littlejohn made the transition from outside linebacker filling in for Gio in the middle?
That's a great question, and that's many times you look on the outside and you don't think it's that big of a transition, but it's almost like being bilingual. Even though you're playing linebacker, you're in a different position, and so all your run fits are different, your pass assignments are different, your run blitzes are different, and then moreover, he's gone from having to be the vocal guy now, making a lot of decisions. And so I think it really gives you an indication of his ability. We've repped him at that spot during the course of the fall, but never has he had to play the number of reps. And, you know, he's a little beat up too, and he won't come off the field. And so we're really pleased with Carlton's performance and his attitude and what he brings to the table.
Coach, when did you get a sense on this senior class may be special? It started with that win at Kansas for a lot of these guys. When did it know to you?
Well, something seemed different, Dom, during that fall camp. It was hard to pin it down. Just something was different. And Brock wasn't our starter yet, but it was just, you know, Jane and I had talked. There just seemed to be a different mentality, different mindset. And, you know, that was also the first time that we came off and started to change the structure of our practice. And so that began to show. And then certainly the Kansas win began to really change some my perspective. That was a Big 12 team. You know, I think 2 years earlier won the Orange Bowl, and so a big win. Now we had work to do, but I think that fall camp, you knew that. You know, there was a lot of people saying, "What the heck's going on with the football team?" You know, I got asked by men in this room about my job security. And I said, hey, listen, if this football team doesn't turn around, you don't have to worry about it. We're going to be better. And if we're not better, there'll be a new coach. That's just how it's going to be. And we were better. And so it really became a time in that fall camp. Other questions? Okay, thanks a lot.